The St. Louis Cardinals split the doubleheader with the Royals on Thursday, and we've got plenty to get into, from Willson Contreras' heroics to a weird situation with Matthew Liberatore. Is he injured? Is he okay? What's going on? It's all coming up on b-schaeff Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of b-schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. The Cardinals have wrapped up the doubleheader and the series, the I-70 series, in the books for 2025, as the Royals come away with the 2 out of 3 at Busch. Cardinals took 2 out of 3 at the K, so they split the season series, and my goodness, were these some compelling games between the Cardinals and Royals from start to finish. It was that way in Kansas City. It was that way this week in St. Louis, and 2 of the 3 were played today as the Cardinals and Royals rained out on Wednesday. In Game 1 on Thursday, the Cardinals get the last laugh with a come-from-behind victory. They do it once again. It has been a hallmark of their recent success to never say die, to come from behind and to put the finishing blow into an opponent, and that's what they were able to do in Game 1. They couldn't quite find that same level in Game 2, as they dropped Game 2 7-5 after winning Game 1 6-5 in 10 innings. From Game 2, we'll have to talk about Matthew Liberatore. That was a bizarre situation to watch, and I went back and rewatched the entire Michael Garcia at bat, where Liberatore just did not look like himself. But we'll tell you what Oliver Marmol said about Libby after that game, and of course we'll spend some time breaking down the extra inning walk-off winner. Willson Contreras was fired up. I don't know if anybody saw the post-game interview on the field with Jim Hayes, but if you didn't, you missed some fireworks, because that guy is oozing with passion and excitement and exuberance, and oh my gosh, is Willson Contreras when he is hitting the baseball like he did today and, you know, putting himself into the center of all the exciting moments. Is he not just a blast of a player for the St. Louis Cardinals? It's good to see that version of Willson come out this afternoon, and really this evening he was pacing the Cardinals offense as well, despite the fact that they didn't win Game 2. But we'll talk about Willson, we'll talk about Libby, and anything else that comes to mind. Give you an update on JJ Wetherholt and down on the farm. Some good things to say about what he was able to accomplish down in the great state of Texas on Thursday night. So all that's coming up on the show. Appreciate you guys for being with me and bearing with me through a little bit of a weird scheduling week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, though, on YouTube, and you can follow b-schaeff Daily as well on Spotify if you are interested in daily St. Louis Cardinals content. That's what we bring here on the show. It's all Cardinals all the time, and I find that it's even that way in the offseason, where we are really talking a lot of Cardinals baseball, breaking down the possibilities of the winter. Obviously, last winter, not a lot happened, but man, I think this stretch of Cardinals baseball that we're in from right now to the trade deadline, and then sort of parlaying that into whatever Chaim Bloom's tenure is going to look like beginning in the fall of 2025. There's going to be a lot of compelling Cardinal stories, I think, coming up. So you want to make sure you're subscribed to b-schaeff Daily if you like your daily hits of Cardinals content. You can get it right here on the show. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, though. We'll start at the beginning. Game 1 this afternoon. Cardinals win it 6-5. It was the game started by Miles Mikolas, and man, is Noah Cameron good. He is the starter for the Royals, the left-hander that the Cardinals saw this afternoon, and he's been really good throughout his early major league opportunities this season for Kansas City. Had a 1.05 ERA, I believe it was, coming into today, and he leaves with a sub-1 earned run average. He's at 0.85 ERA after 5 starts, I believe he's had. 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks. The Cardinals just couldn't get anything off Cameron. But after 6 innings, despite him only being at 82 pitches, Matt Quatraro maybe does the Cardinals a bit of a favor. Goes to his bullpen. Again, it's not early in modern baseball 2025 to see a starter go 6 and then you go to the pen. That's not early by any means. 82 pitches, maybe a little early. He was so efficient. Not a huge strikeout guy, Noah Cameron, but he just was keeping the Cardinals off balance. He had 3 Ks in 6 innings and was efficient to be able to get through those 6 innings as quickly as he did. But you might think that the guy would be extended for the 7th with the way he was pitching, especially game 1 of a doubleheader. So we don't often do that where we're kind of wondering about the managerial decision on the other side. Obviously, he's a rookie player, and so maybe the Royals just, being cautious of that and understanding of the situation he's in. But, man, he's looked really good. And they might have won that game, I think, if they tried to get the seventh inning out of him, even though it was coming up against the middle of the Cardinal lineup. John Schreiber didn't have it, and the Cardinals were able to find their opening as a result as they get into the bullpen of Kansas City a little bit there in the seventh inning, score a couple of runs. Now you've got proof of concept. A big home run by Ivan Herrera, which was awesome to see, not only in the context of this game for the Cardinals, but just the way that he had sort of been trending at the plate as well, had just some otherworldly numbers for a while, and then we start to see that maybe trickle to the other extent a little bit. It had slowed down a little. I'm not saying he had been terrible, and in fact, now has a 4-game hitting streak after he picked up a base hit in Game 2 on Thursday against KC. But big game in the afternoon contest, 2 for 3, hit the 2-run bomb, also reached base via walk. And Ivan Herrera still looking like a guy that's going to be a consistent force in the middle of that Cardinal lineup. No, he's not going to end up with a 1,000 OPS. If he did, he's an MVP candidate, right? And that'd be great if he was. It's just rare to see that over the course of a full season. He's doing well with where he's at right now, batting 333, I believe he has pushed that batting average back up to. And the OPS is pushing 1,000, but it's just realistically not going to stay there. But is he a force in the middle of the Cardinal lineup? He absolutely is. And that was just a clutch moment because you kind of felt like, all right, they scored a couple of runs. You got it to 3-2. You didn't capitalize fully, though, on the situation in the seventh. And so leaving some ducks on the pond, maybe that ends up costing you. And it just kind of didn't come out of nowhere. Cardinals had a runner on base in the eighth, but you're starting to see that inning as well maybe slip away. And Ivan Herrera does really the only thing that, could have propelled the Cardinals, I think, forward in this game. They just really needed that moment to be able to stake out that lead. It was short-lived. Talk about Ryan Helsley, and maybe folks can throw their thoughts on him into the comments section below. Are you concerned about Helsley? Is it just one of those deals where you're not going to be perfect every time out? He gives up a run, was able to get out of the rest of the inning with the Cardinals still alive in this game to send it to extras, but gave up a couple of hits, walked a man. It was definitely nervous moments for sure. His third blown save of the season, but he's still sitting with a 3.27 ERA. He's not what he was maybe last year, but that was also arguably a little unsustainable how good he was last year. So I don't know. I'm looking at Helsley and saying not overly concerned, but yeah, you certainly are hoping, I think, down the road to see him a little bit sharper than he was. Jojo Romero then comes in for the 10th inning. The Manfred man, the ghost man on second base, ends up scoring, but the Cardinals are able to get it done in the bottom of the 10th inning. I'll start here. There's a lot I want to kind of get into from this game, and then we'll talk about our thoughts on Matthew Liberatore's early exit from Game 2. In that 10th inning, the one decision that I think pretty firmly Oliver Marmol probably, if it were me, I would have gone a different direction. Joel Pozo as the Manfred man, the automatic runner at second, is just something I would not have allowed to happen. And I think we got a glimpse of why. And this was not me. This was not me waiting for that moment where the ball is struck perfectly into right center, into the gap. It's going to be a hit. As it concludes, the right fielder ends up 12 to 15 feet from the baseball. There's just no way he was going to catch it. And Pozo just had a terrible read on the ball and wasn't even halfway. So he ends up having to stop at third on a ball that I thought might have ended up as a double. It was so deep into the gap. But anyway, that was the move that was not made, basically. Was, all right, you're down by a run. Pozo is the tying run. So it's not a situation where the Royals scored multiples and the Manfred man doesn't really matter. You got to have more runs to just tie the game. No, that will tie the game. The reason you don't do it, and I wasn't covering this game, I was actually at the game for most of it with my wife and my son, but after he got to sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, he loves that song, we had to get back because I had to do my radio show at 4 p.m. for KTGR in Columbia. I do that remotely from home. So we're watching the game on my phone on the way back. We got all the way back home, and I don't live super close to Busch, and I had time to go throw it on the TV before the game was actually over. And so, but I'm thinking through this, and I'm looking at folks and getting tweeted at. Somebody asked me, would you pinch run with Barrero for Pozo? They asked me this during the commercial break after the top of the 10th inning. So I'm looking at my phone, and the way that it was framed was like, your options are, you take Pozo out, you can put Herrera behind the plate, you burn the DH, like assuming the game goes to the 11th inning. Or if you wanted, Willson Contreras could go behind the plate, and then you don't burn the DH. Obviously, he hasn't caught all year. I don't expect that he will, but that was perhaps an option as well. They come back from the break, and Pozo is heading out to second base to take his position as the automatic runner. But my response to that tweeter that had thrown that idea out to me before the inning even began, I said, yeah, I'm good with either of those. The only thing I didn't want to see was Joel Pozo running. Just is not his strong suit. And maybe there's a little bit of an element of, do you trust Barrero not to make a mistake? Maybe it's not fair to characterize Barrero that way, but kind of one of the more recent memories we have of him was the start he had out in center field on a road trip a couple of weeks ago. Can't remember if it was Philly or Cincinnati, but at any rate, he started a game in center field, and it was rather adventurous out there. And I always think back to Adolis Garcia, pinch running and getting the slipping and falling situation happening around third base. And it always kind of gives me pause. You think about guys who pinch run, but they're not everyday or regular players. They're pinch running, and that's their first time they've played in a week or something like that. I would be like, okay, is there some risk of a guy getting a little bit too antsy and having something crazy happen? Maybe that's part of the reason. And maybe, Ollie just didn't view that run as the one that was like, all right, that one's got to happen, but we would rather just be able to win the game. And so, if you only tie the game because you're making the decision about that one particular runner and you have to go to the 11th inning, now you've already burned up your closer. Now you're talking about being on your third catcher of the day. You're burning the DH potentially, just a lot of balls in the air. I personally don't care about any of that. I absolutely, unequivocally would have pinch ran for Pozo, but the Cardinals got away with it. And look, I do think that's one that they got away with. Like I said, I wasn't covering the game to know the explanation from Ollie, but I personally would have gone the other way on that. Not the end of the world, but, people kind of tell me I'm a homer, or I always just cape for whatever the Cardinals do. So for those folks, I would have done it differently than what Ollie had put together there. But I understand, probably what was going through his head. I just would have had a different conclusion that I would have drawn about the way to go about that one. But you end up getting the hits you need. Mason Wynn chops one toward the first base side, and you get the run home anyway for Pozo. And then a little bit later on in the inning, it's a walk to Brendan Donovan. Apparently, Willson Contreras was paying attention to that, and he felt a certain way about it, and ends up getting the big hit and telling Jim Hayes on the field after the fact. I don't know if you folks saw the interview. I mentioned it off the top, but he was fired up. Said some words that I won't play the audio on the podcast, because he said some words that I'm sure the folks over at the FanDuel broadcast booth were hearing that come through and going, wait a minute, what? He just said what? Can he say? He can't say that. So, and it's cable, so we're good. It's not like there were FCC violations on an over-the-air sort of vibe. We're in a streaming world. It's all good. But, man, was Willson Contreras fired up. And I love it. And I feel like Cardinals fans love it, too. I love Jim Hayes' reaction, too. Was just after he finishes, just like, yep, go get him. All right, keep it going. That was just, it was so good. It was so good. But no, I won't play the audio. Go find it, though. It's out there, I'm sure. I'm reviewing it on MLB TV, so I just watched it. It's right after the game ends. He was fired up, but he did mention, I thought it was really interesting that Contreras mentioned Donovan being walked. Actually, just for clarity and context, I will go ahead and play that audio real quick. Just the part about him talking about Donovan so he can get in his own words.
I just like the fact that they walked Donnie to face me. That kind of fires me up. It's part of the game, though. Not to respect, but I was so fired. I was looking for one pitch. I was looking for fastball. He throws 100. And thankfully, I was able to put it in the air for a base hit and help the team to win tonight.
And then he gets doused by the water cooler with, looked like Herrera and Burley, I think, ran over to get him there. So maybe that woke him up a little bit too, which caused him to, or loosened him up maybe to say, some of the things he said, which was basically, I think what he was kind of trying to articulate, if you heard it, was teams think they can come in here and maybe they might be thinking the Cardinals are a certain something. They might be a good team, or they might think we're a blank team and we're a good team and we'll F everybody up, I think is basically what he was saying out there. So that's, if you didn't hear it, that was the gist of it, and it was great. It was great because when this guy is, and he is an emotional leader for this team, and when he is leading the charge by example, it frees up Willson Contreras to be able to be the leader in terms of his emotion and what he says and what he does. It hits home so much more significantly when he's playing the way that we saw him play today. 2 for 4 in the first game, I believe, was his batting mark. Yep, reached base via walk, so he's on base 3 times, gets the OPS above 700, increased it even more in game 2 with another 2 for 4, 3 RBIs. He was the heartbeat of that Cardinal offense in the night game and the early going. Had the first 3 RBIs of the day, and then Arenado, his home run, tied the game at 5-5. Cardinals weren't able to get anything more than that, so they do drop game 2. But, man, Contreras was great today, and if that's a sign of things to come, this Cardinals lineup is going to be more than fine. I know they split the series, or I should say split the doubleheader, and lost the series today, which means, that's 2 straight series losses now, going back to the weekend in Texas, and now you lose another one. But I don't know. I don't look at this day as being an overwhelmingly negative one with the resilience that they showed to win game 1. Miles Michaelis gave you a Miles Michaelis start. I don't know. And what do you expect? 6 innings, 3 runs. That's a quality start. You take it every day of the week from him. You take it 30 times a year from him if he'll give it to you. 8 hits allowed. He scattered them, was able to only give up the 3 runs. And again, it really felt like the Cardinals weren't going to do much offensively in that game with the way that Noah Cameron looked against that lineup. Cardinals have had some issues with lefties, but then in game 2, they were able to get to Cole Reagans, which was maybe good to see and maybe a sign that they can get over the bugaboo that has been opposing lefties at times. But able to do it against the bullpen as well, able to come back from a deficit, able to then, when the Royals tie it off of Helsley in the 9th, you don't give in. Right? When the Royals score their automatic runner in the 10th, Cardinals don't give in. That was an emotional win. You'd hoped to see them potentially parlay that into a win in the nightcap, but it was not to be. And part of the reason for that was Matthew Liberatore just did not look like himself. And this was the second straight rough outing for him in a row. And he ends up giving up 7 runs. The ERA is now up to 3.82, just like that. It's a pretty significant change. I think it was at 2.73 prior to 2 starts ago. So you go through Texas, you go through this Kansas City series, and Liberatore's ERA jumps by more than a run across those 2 lackluster starts. 4 innings, 8 hits allowed, 7 runs, walked him in, didn't have his swing and miss stuff, only 2 strikeouts, gave up a couple of home runs tonight as well. It was another first-inning home run. The Royals hit a homer in the first inning in all 3 games of this series. Not the stat you necessarily want if you're the Cardinals, but again, they do end up winning one of the games. Let's talk about it with Libby, though. Concerned, not concerned. He's taken out of the game after 71 pitches. Normally, I think with a doubleheader especially, and Ollie Marmol has talked all about the games to come, the fact that you don't have off days. It was not helpful, by the way. You could say, well, they had an off day yesterday. They didn't play Wednesday because of the rain. That didn't help them. They had an off day Monday, and then you played Tuesday. Yes, you burned up your bullpen a little bit on Tuesday, but you're in the very beginning of a rigorous stretch. You need that if you're going to go with the doubleheader to say, hey, it's going to give everybody at least a day off. You need that to come in the middle of the stretch, not the second day of it. So that I wouldn't count that as something that was, a helpful factor for the Cardinals by any means, and it kind of messed up their pitching plans for sure. Now, we talked a lot in the last few days about Michael McGreevy being somebody that is going to be on his way. That is locked and loaded now. I don't know if it's been officially said, but I don't care. It's happening. I mean, there's just no way it's not happening with the fact that you used 2 starters today, and so you count 4 days down the road, and they're going to need a starter. I mean, when it's that turn for, Palante is really the guy that'll be, I guess, on turn because he pitched Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. His day would be Sunday. You could slot McGreevy in on Sunday and give Palante the extra day. He looks like he could use it right now. Or you could go Palante, and then you could slot McGreevy in on Monday against the Blue Jays if you wanted to do so. Because the two guys that pitched today, let's say Liberatore doesn't need the IL, which we'll get into his injury or his status, I guess, his reason for removal here in a moment. But he pitched on Thursday. Michael has pitched on Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Neither of those guys are going to be available until Tuesday. So that's where McGreevy fits in. He's going to have to pitch Sunday or Monday. It's going to be one of the two. They are already preparing to add him into the rotation. They'll be able to pick him to go either day because Sunday's his regular day. Monday would be 1 day of additional rest for him. Frankly, I would kid's probably raring to go. I would throw him Sunday, even though it's against the Dodgers. That's maybe part of it is like you really want to give him that. Let's ask it the other way. Do you want to give Palante the Dodgers? You probably don't right now. So either way they want to go about it, that's what has to happen here is McGreevy's going to be up. The question's going to be when you get a little bit later into the following week when the Blue Jays are in town, is Liberatore making his start against the Toronto Blue Jays, or is what we saw tonight indicative of a potential issue? The Cardinals announced that Matthew Liberatore was removed from the game with, quote, fatigue-related issues, which, who among us has not felt fatigue-related issues in our day-to-day work life? But this, for Matthew Liberatore, a little more concerning. Still reading this from JD, John Denton's Twitter feed. He saw his fastball velocity drop to 90.8 miles per hour and 89.5 during a 9-pitch at-bat that resulted in a walk to Royals outfielder Michael Garcia. Michael Garcia at-bat, the one that we're talking about here in that final inning, it was the final at-bat that Liberatore saw on the mound. He did not look right. He was missing arm side with a lot of his pitches. He was losing velocity. The final pitch was a breaking ball that missed 2 feet off the plate. It did not look right. It was painful to watch. And so the Cardinals did right by sending the trainer out and getting the staff out there to talk with him. Brief conversation. The only thing you can do is take him out. But they then don't announce anything other than fatigue. And this is an interesting one to react to because as we think back to before Liberatore became this, over the past 2 months, like ace caliber arm for this rotation, and we were all over the moon about what he had been doing, what was the knock on him before? Well, it was gets through the lineup once, but then you ask a little bit more of him, and he starts to wear down as an outing goes along, especially in a starting role, and the velocity goes down, but you're not to 89.5. I mean, he just did not look right. So that they're saying fatigue, I guess, is the best case scenario for what they could have said after what we saw happen. That being said, I don't really trust that it's a fatigue, he's a little tired. Okay, I'm just going to be clear. That's not, to me, cause for celebration. Like, oh, he's just tired. Great. No, fatigue-related issues, to me, like, even if there's not, like, a specific injury, dead arm, that looked like what dead arm would look like if you were going to diagnose something to be dead arm. And that's always been something like, we don't really have a reason for that, but sometimes guys are throwing and something's not right. Probably mechanical sometimes, sometimes you are. Maybe you're just worn down. Whatever it is, it didn't look right. And so I don't know that resolves in 5 days or 6 days for Matthew Liberatore. And if in the past we've been anchored now for a number of his starts to like, oh, this is the dude that Libby's finally put it together. But it took how many years to get to this point? Did we anoint him too quickly? I'm not like ready to jump off the bandwagon, but I have a concern level for physically where he's at with what we saw tonight. And look, the Rangers outing a handful of days previous was not a great one either. And they hit him around tonight. So fatigue issues, Ollie Marmol said he was just out of sync. And that sounds to me like, okay, maybe something mechanically, and certainly out of sync would be a good way to describe what we saw against Michael Garcia. Again, it just did not look like Libby, and he didn't look comfortable out there. So if your delivery is starting to go because you're just hitting a wall in a start, All right, that's like probably an understandable thing to have happen. From a workload perspective, it's always been in the back of my mind, like the Cardinals aren't going to just be able to have Liberatore pitch the whole season in the rotation in 2025. There's going to have to be a point where they dial it back when you think about it from an innings perspective, because he's never been a full season starter at the major league level with the length of a 6-month season that you have up here. He throws, 4 innings today, so he's up to 68 innings on the season. He threw 86 innings last year in that modified role where they just kind of pitched him whenever they felt like it. And, that I thought, okay, you can go up from that certainly to 110, 120 maybe. And it should be noted back in 2023, he did pretty much start for the entire season. Not the entire season. He started 11 times in St. Louis, 13 times in Memphis, and then made another 11 or so relief appearances with the Cardinals. But that added up to be like 125, 126 total innings. So it wouldn't have been totally crazy to think that Libby could get to that point, but he's on a pace for much more than that right now, right? Through 12 starts, 68 innings. If he made 30 starts, you do the math, that's upwards of 150 innings or so that he'd be on a pace to throw. Do the Cardinals maybe just say, we don't really know what this is? We're glad we don't see. They'll probably get checked out, I should say. Nothing structural, that'd be great. But is it one of those deals where they go, maybe we just do a 15-day thing here because we don't want to risk anything with him? And if it's just like a fatigue, dead arm period, or whatever the case might be, where he hits a wall, and to try to fight through that could mean compromising your mechanics, which could lead to an injury, even if there's not currently one. I wouldn't be shocked to see IL for him. I know they said fatigue, but that you can absolutely justify, I think, a quick stint on the shelf. And in theory, if that makes him stronger 15 days from now, he comes back, and then suddenly you're not as concerned about the overall innings load on his arm if this is a Cardinals team that's hoping to need him in September and October. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Michael McGreevy is 100% ready. You can dial him into that rotation. The one downside is that you don't have the benefit of the 6-man rotation to give rest to Sonny Gray, to Fetty, to Michaelis, to give everybody that extra day that I was convinced they were going to do with McGreevy. Now it might not be that way unless miraculously Liberatore kind of bounces back. We'll see. My concern level, what's the DEFCON system? DEFCON 1 is bad. DEFCON 5 is the okay DEFCON where we're not worried. I'm at least a 3 on DEFCON. And I'm not going to say it's a 2 because that might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm not far off of that. It would take one little more update of, we're not really sure what's going on. It could be rough. It could be a tough spot for Liberatore. And I'm a little bit disappointed with what I've seen from Cardinals fans on social media tonight when it comes to Liberatore, where people are like, oh, I'm so done with him. I knew it. Like, bro, he's been really, really good for this Cardinals team. And, might be dealing with a little bit of something physically right now. So I'm not going to defend the night he had. He didn't pitch well, but I also clearly wasn't right. So hopefully that's a short-term wasn't right, that you can get him a little R&R and he's going to be, back to normal. But he wasn't normal tonight. And so to rip him like, oh, I knew it, this is Liberatore, he needs to be a reliever. Don't do that after 2 outings for me, please. Let's take a breath. So that's my stance on Libby. We'll see what ends up happening there, and hopefully, get some encouraging news on him, because he's been a real force for this rotation, and you hope to see that continue. Bullpen had an adventurous time coming in after Libby, but they didn't give up any runs. Kyle Leahy has not been as sharp, gave up 3 hits in 2 innings, but no runs, worked around it, had a couple of Ks. John King gave up a hit, but got through 2/3 of an inning. Matt Swanson continues to get outs for the Cardinals in meaningless situations. I will say meaningless. That's probably not fair, actually. The Cardinals had, come back in this game. It was, you're down 2, I believe, when Swanson pitched, but, not meaningless, still in the game. But that's his role coming into those spots, and did a nice enough job. Inning in the 3rd, scoreless, gave up a walk, but nothing else. 3.09 ERA, and Maton got an inning of work there in the latter stages of this game. So Cardinals lose game 2. They win game 1. We'll see what happens, man. It's not going to get any easier with the Dodgers coming to town, but I would say generally, if you were really concerned about the offensive output that you saw from the Cardinals over the weekend against Texas, what they did to a Royals pitching staff that's been really, really good all year, I'm not saying they just decimated them this series, but you score 6, you score 5, you score 7. You take those outcomes, bring it. I mean, that's what they're going to need if they're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers. They're going to have to score runs on this Dodgers team, and it's a Dodgers team that's dealt with its own, variety of pitching injuries, and so maybe the Cardinals will be able to continue some of the momentum they found with the offense. Big to see a swing like that from Arenado. I mean, he has been really, really struggling, and the OPS, even after today, is still only at 675. Herrera up to 995, by the way. I didn't have that exact total for you earlier, but that's what it is. And you know what? We'll see what it looks like this weekend against the Dodgers. I think it's going to be a good time at Busch, and the crowds will probably be rather robust. So let me know if you'll be heading down to Busch this weekend. I'll be curious to hear from you guys in the comments section, and we'll obviously be curious to see what it ends up looking like for the Cardinals as they take on the Dodgers. But we've gone a little longer than I intended to already. Let's make sure we don't get out of here before we talk about things down on the farm.
It's time to go down on the farm. Brought to you by Hastings Layers Premium Eggs.
You'll be happier than a jackass eating thistle.
Huh?
So I had a buddy down in Frisco, Texas, send me a picture, said, hey, I'm doing some scouting for you. Springfield Cardinals are down here, and he was at the game. Apparently, he sent me this photo from a pool that they have, I guess, like a big pool area out, I guess, beyond the outfield. Kind of a cool setup. Great way to take in baseball. Beer at his hand, chilling in Frisco, Texas for some minor league baseball. I was definitely jealous of that. That was looked like a good time. It was also a good time, though, for JJ Wetherholt, who homered in the game against the Rough Riders as the Springfield Cardinals down in Double-A got the 6-2 win on Thursday night. Good to see that. 2 for 4 day for JJ, his 4th home run of the Springfield season. 869 OPS. Here he comes. Memphis soon? Question mark. We'll see. There have been some recent call-ups and some recent shuffling of the roster, so I'm not 100% sure we'll see JJ just yet up to Memphis, but it could come in the month of June, and that wouldn't necessarily surprise me one bit. So good stuff from him. Like I said, I mean, 869 OPS, 299 average. He is more than holding his own at that level, and I think before long you might see him at another one. Bryson Motts was the starter. 4 innings, 1 run allowed, 5 strikeouts, and of course did not qualify for the win, but a lot of times those guys in Double-A are not going 5 innings or more, although Tekoa Roby, I believe, was 6 2/3 the other night. That's another guy that you could be talking about for Memphis sooner rather than later. And speaking of the Memphis Redbirds, DrewRom.com was somebody we were excited about seeing the way that he had performed of late, but did not continue that success tonight. In fact, the Redbirds are still going right now as I record this, nearly 11:30 p.m. Top of the 9th inning. The Indianapolis Indians are leading the Redbirds now 10-9 after putting up a 3 spot in the 8th inning. But Rom gave up 6 over 2 2/3. So regression for him for sure. ERA is now healthily over 5. But hey, 9 runs from the Memphis lineup. Nathan Church was recently promoted from Double-A. Missed that the other day. I knew it, but again, it's been a little more of a sporadic schedule for recording this week. But 3 for 4 night for him, and he's batting .500 with an OPS over 1,100 since going up to Triple-A. Reached base 4 times tonight, which is good to see. So JC still doing well down there. 2 for 4 night for him. He's got a 781 OPS. He drove in a couple of runs and was on base 3 times as well. Cesar Prieto still swinging a hot bat, with an OPS above 800. So a good number of guys down there in Memphis. Michael Ciani has been doing a great job. 1 for 2 tonight, but walked 3 times. The OPS at 782. So there you have it. Michael Ciani was DHing tonight of all things. I don't really know. I guess they already know he's a good defender, and so just go hit. I don't know. But 10-9 right now as I record this. Memphis is trailing. Maybe they'll have a chance to walk it off in the bottom of the 9th. But we won't be around to see it here on this show because we're about to bow out of here. I do mention Andre Granillo. We've been pumping his tires a little bit lately. He gave up a couple of runs tonight in that Memphis game, but did strike out 3 batters. His strikeout to walk is ridiculous. I think like 45 strikeouts to 8 walks on the season. He's still got a sub-2 ERA. Definitely somebody that I will continue to talk about because he should probably be up with St. Louis at some point this summer. Right now, you're not really looking to kick a guy like Matt Swanson out the door. He's doing a nice job as kind of that last righty in your bullpen. But, man, Granillo might have some upside that has not yet been discovered. That is, though, going to do it for this edition of the show. Appreciate you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on how you view this series as the Cardinals drop 2 of 3 from the Royals after splitting the doubleheader on Thursday. And then we'll be back talking about a Dodgers series all weekend long. Going to be a lot of interesting baseball, I'm sure, coming from Busch Stadium in the days ahead. Appreciate you guys, as always, for listening. We'll talk to you next time on B-Schaeff Daily. Peace.